Hi, my name is Tracy Campbell from My Sweet Home Living, and this is our very first primitive sewing collection video tutorial. If you're seeing this video, more than likely you have purchased our very first collection, the primitive crow crock pokes that have already been sewn, and you have received the little kit in your mailbox and you are ready to prepare it on your own. So I'm going to walk you through the steps today. I'm going to show you all of the supplies that I have used to complete the crows that we all have fallen in love with. And perhaps maybe you've stumbled upon this video by accident. And if so, you can follow me on Facebook or YouTube at My Sweet Home Living with Tracy Campbell. I would love to have you. We do all things primitive, rustic, country decorating ideas, and primitive style crafts. And sometimes I even give you some behind the scenes peeks at my life here in rural Northwest Kentucky. So join me as we complete these crow crock pokes, and I hope that you enjoy them as much as I have. So let's talk about the items that you've received in your kit. I'll walk you through what is in the kit, what you will need, and also show you a few tips and tricks along the way. So first and foremost, this is your handy dandy guide to all of the items that you have in your kit, the additional items that you will need. And then of course, if you have found this video, then you've probably already scanned this QR code down in the bottom corner that has led you to find this video. Now, this is just a quick peek of what you see in the kit, and this is how I have styled and finished my complete three-piece crow crock pokes. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll be able to do the same, and feel free to add your own style to these, and no matter how you finish them, I would love to see a finished photo shared by you over in my All Things Primitive Craft group on Facebook. So find us over there. You can share your photos and see many other photos as well. This is a pattern from a designer on Etsy. Her shop is called Prims by Denise. If you would like to create this pattern on your own and then use this video as a tutorial on how to finish them as I have, then you can do so as well. It has written description of all the process of how she recommends completing them, as well as the pattern. And then if you like to sew, this is the perfect kit for you. You can sew them, whip them up together, whip them up on your own, and together have a sweet little set of crow crock pokes. Okay, so let's just look real quick at what the things that the items that you have in your kit. You will have 3 strands of burlap twine string or jute, whatever you want to call it. Something similar to this will be in your kit. 3 pieces of those, 1 for each crow. Then you will have a small section of, I apologize for my craft and coffee grunge stained hands there. If you follow me, we were just crafting a moment ago, and I have crafted and have coffee stain on my fingers as well as some paint and ink. So we've been busy this morning. Don't trust a crafter with clean hands, right? Then you'll have a little strand of, this is called crochet thread. You'll need this to stitch across the beak and stitch the eye, okay? So this one strand should be enough to complete all 3 crows. Now, in your set, you will have 3 pieces or 3 crows that have been already stitched together. You will have a piece of muslin fabric about this size, about 6 by 11, and the crow shape has already been stitched on to the fabric for you. What you will need to do is take a good sharp pair of fabric scissors, and you will need to trim around the outside perimeter of your crow shape. Now, if you take a peek at this crow, you will see that I have left a little bit of a border around the edge of the crow. All right, you do want to leave a little bit of that edging. Do not cut on the black line, and be careful because these have already been stitched. So let me flip this over, and hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of that stitching line on there. Let me use these scissors to point that out. This is the row of threads stitching around the edge. So as you cut out your crow, be sure that you do not cross over into that stitch line. You want to leave that border around the edge of the stitch line, okay? The black line will disappear. We will not even see the black tracing line once we get these finished, so don't worry about that. Let's get these cut out and let's proceed to the next step. Once you have these cut out, you're going to find the curved edge around the entire perimeter of the crow. So, for example, this edging right here under his beak, around the top of his head, at the tip of the beak, and here at the corner, this corner, at the tip of his tail, anywhere where you see a curve or a bend in the design, you will need to take a pair of little snips, or you can also use scissors, but you'll want to take those snips or scissors and make a few snips around the bend or around the curve of that shape. Be careful. You do not want to cross over into the stitches as I showed you a moment ago. If you cut into the stitches, you will create a hole in your crow, and whenever it comes time to stuff, guess what? That stuffing is going to come out. So be very, very careful and do not snip into the stitching. I'm going to make a few snips, and by doing this, this will allow your crow, when it's unfolded, to not bunch or gather awkwardly in these areas, okay? So take a few moments, snip these out. Okay, once you have snipped all those curved edges, did I get the top of his, let's go ahead and snip the top of his nose right up here, top of his beak, rather. Make a few snips. Anywhere where I like to see a curve or a bend, I just go ahead and make a few snips. It's not going to hurt it. Even if it's not a bend, it's not going to hurt to create some of those snippings. Okay? Now, what you're going to do next, you're going to pull out a good healthy dose of patience here. Okay? You're going to take your crow and you're going to start turning it right side out. This takes, like I said, a little bit of patience. If you need a tool to help you do so, you can use the blunt end of a skewer stick. That will also help you to pull this crow completely right side out. I'm going to finish unfolding my crows, and we'll be right back here in just a minute for the next step. Okay, all three of my crows have been turned right side out. And I wanted to show you, let's slide two of these apart. I'm going to walk through one of these and you'll just repeat the same process for all three of your crows. I have a skewer stick and I'm going to use the blunt end of my skewer stick and I'm going to take that inside my crow, and along the outer edges I'm going to run the edge of that skewer stick all the way around the inner edge of that crow and make sure that all of my edges are turned completely out, and that'll give you a more clearly defined shape to your crow. Be very careful when you're going in the tip of the beak and then the tip of the tail, okay? And you definitely want to use something that is blunt. If you're using the sharp end or even a pair of scissors, don't do that. You'll poke right through your stitching seam, and then that's where you're going to have your leaks. Your stuffing will leak out and you won't have a full complete shape to your crow. So at this point, I'm going to use some polyfill. I know that's really up close. Any kind of stuffing will do just fine. You can even use stuffing from a pillow if you have extra pillows that you don't use, or if you can find a cheap pillow on clearance or whatever. Just any kind of stuffing will work just fine for filling the inside of your crows. Now, once again, just as a moment ago when I said, pull out a healthy dose of patience, well, that applies to this step as well. The slower that you go with this step, honestly, the better outcome you will probably have. Because if you're taking your time filling your crows, you're going to be able to feel, use the blunt end of your skewer stick, you're going to be able to fill in some of those tighter, smaller areas, like the area of the beak. And that is where I'm starting first, okay? I'm taking the blunt end of my skewer stick and it's going to feel like you're not moving it, but if you just kind of repeat the motions over and over, you will eventually start to feel the tip of that beak filling up with the stuffing, okay? So just be persistent and you'll eventually um, see that filling up. Now, the very, very tip, it is tricky to get that stuffing all the way down in there. So continue that until you get a nice, stiff shape to your crow, okay? Now, honestly, you cannot overfill this. You can stuff and stuff and stuff. And the more stuffing you put inside of your crow, the better the shape will turn out. I'll just tell you. If your crow doesn't have a good shape, or if you feel like it's floppy or maybe looks a little off, you need to add some more stuffing. Okay, that's probably going to be the problem if it doesn't look correct. Okay, so you're going to keep filling. I'm going to fill the tire head all the way down through the body. I am going to do the same little method with using the blunt end of my skewer stick to fill the tail. And you do that, and we'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Okay, your crow is all stuffed. You're ready for the next step. You're going to pull out the little strand of crochet thread that was included in your kit. Carefully unknot it, and you will see that it's a long enough string, and it should be long enough to where you can complete all 3 crows with the same strand of thread. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to take, whoop, I just made a knot at the end. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, so you are going to take your thread and you are going to need what is commonly referred to as a doll needle. Okay, I even included the SKU number here on your handout, your insert, that shows you what those doll needles look like. I even give you the Hobby Lobby SKU number if you're purchasing online, or if you just need to confirm if you're in store what that SKU number matches. These are called doll needles. I do not have a doll needle. I have something that's very similar, and mine is called a plastic canvas needle. It's very similar. It's $1.49 for a set of 3. That's what I typically use on mine. It's a size 18 at the bottom of the needle package. It will tell you, but you can do either one. The point of it is that you want a needle that's not like incredibly sharp, and you want it to where it's thick enough and or open enough. Let me point this out to you. There's a little opening where your thread, let me turn this around, where your thread will go through this little eye on your needle. Okay, so I have taken my strand of crochet thread, and I have strung it through the eye of the needle. Okay, and I'm going to pull it to where about, I don't know, a few inches, sticks out on one side, and the other strand is much longer. Let me just start by saying, any kind of method works. If it works for you, it's fine. My method probably is not technologically correct if you are seamstress or anything of that nature. I just do what works for me. I'm going to start with creating the eye of the crow. And first of all, you need to decide which direction your crow goes, because we're going to probably knot it on the back side. And so let me look at my crows. I did, probably when they're finished, it won't matter anyway. But I like to just, in my head, for some reason, I think it helps me to decide how to do it. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to insert it right about where I would consider where the eye would be on the crow. I'm going to run my needle under the fabric there, just under the first layer of fabric. And then I'm going to come out right there. So do you see that needle about where that is coming through at, right? And I'm going to gently pull it through. I'm not going to pull it all the way through, but here's what I'm going to do. On the back side right here is I'm just going to tie a double knot. And what this will do is it will hold my thread in place while I'm stitching his eye. So let me take a moment just to double knot this. Okay. Double knot it, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that little tail off just a little bit, okay, just so that it doesn't get in my way. So all we've done is tie a knot under that first layer of fabric. So now I'm going to take my needle back in that same area where I first stuck that needle in to create the loop under there. I'm going to stick it back in that general area, and I'm going to poke it through to the other side. So look closely and let's see where this needle is going to come through at. Does that look like a proper placement for his eye? I'm going to assume so, so I'm going to commit and I'm going to pull it all the way through. Okay. Now, as we pull through, let's flip it over and look at the back side. So right there, you see that it's pulling and it's making that indentation. That's what we want, okay? So now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to look closely here. I'm hoping this will show up for you. I'm not going to go back in the same exact hole that my thread came out of. I'm going to go over just a tiny bit. Let's see which direction. I think I'm just going to go this direction. And then watch where your needle's coming out on the back side. You want your thread passes, if you will, to be very similar in placement. They don't have to be exact, but you're going to repeat that a few times, pulling it taut, pull it tight each time, because if you don't pull it tight, you're not going to get that good indentation of where the eye is. All right. So once you've done that a few times, you're happy with it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 2 more passes. 1. Gotta make sure that it's going to pop out on the right side and the back here. Pull it out. Okay. Now for the back, when I'm finished, I'm just going to take my needle back under that fabric one more time, just under one layer, kind of how like we started. Stick my needle through there, okay? Meanwhile, I'm holding this loop as I'm pulling this other end, okay? And then I'm going to take my needle through the loop, and then it's going to pull that knot down to the surface, holding my thread in place. There we go. We have that eye stitched, okay? There we go. There's a close-up view. And once again, there's no right or wrong way to do that. If you get it to where it works for you, you're good. This crow is ready for the next, which the stitching that goes in the middle of his beak area right here. We're going to start just like we did when we started the eye area. We're going to insert our needle under one layer of the fabric and pull it back out. Although we're going to direct it this direction this time, okay? So we're going to direct our needle towards the tip of his beak. I like to start about right here. So if you follow this line up his belly, up to his beak, I just kind of start my stitching right about there, okay? I'm going to take it under and stick my needle out just like we did a moment ago with the eye, okay? Pull it a little bit out, okay? Then I need to make a knot. Before I pull that thread, I don't want to pull it all the way through or it's going to come right out. So we're going to create a knot. Let me get my slack out of my string, my thread there. Okay, I'm going to tie it down And then I'm going to tie it one more time because we want to double knot it there. And that will hold our thread secure while we stitch the line of his beak. Sometimes my fingers don't want to cooperate with this step. So just be patient. You'll get it. And I'm going to cut off the excess right there. For right now, I left a little bit of excess just in case, but that tail I did trim it off just to give me some room. Okay, so I'm going to stick my needle back in and I'm going to go clear across to the other side of the beak. Now under there I need to kind of watch, and if you just carefully stick your needle, you'll see where your needle is going to come out, and if you're okay with that placement, then go ahead and commit, push it all the way through and pull it to the other side. And once you do so, you want to give it a little tug, and you're going to start creating the indentions. There you go, the indentions of the beak, the stitching that will go all the way down the center towards the tip of his beak. We're going to just flip-flop from side to side as we take that needle, and I'm carefully taking a moment to pull that thread through. And well, I can't, if I can hold on to my needle, it might help. And then I'm just going to follow an imaginary line down his beak. And I'm going to stitch, I'm going to place my stitches about 1/4 of an inch apart, okay? And as I start to do each stitch, you'll see the shape start to take form. So let me proceed with doing this, and you can kind of watch as we go. You will kind of have to flip this crow back and forth so that you can see one side, then the other side, and so forth, okay? Flipping it back and forth will allow you to make sure that both sides are going to look the way you want them to, and then you'll see that you can use your crow on either side. You can flip it either way and it will look the same. You know, one side might have a zigzagged zigzagged little beak line when the other one might look fine, but if you want them to match on both sides, you really kind of need to watch close as your stitching goes around each side. Now we're down here to the end, so here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick it down through the very tip to the other side. Okay, I didn't get my stitches real even there. Kind of left a little bit more space in between those stitches, but I'm okay with that. If you're not okay, you can clip your thread, pull it out, and start over. Okay, I'm going to finish it just like we started it by making a loop under one layer of that fabric. Well, come on, thread. Making a loop and then tying a knot, and it will take the knot down to the surface of the fabric and holds it in place, and then I can snip it. If you want to double knot that, go right ahead. Okay, so this is what we have so far. The indention for the eye and the indention for the beak line. Okay, next step, you're going to pull out your paints. So you need to grab just a basic black and a gold, or you can even use a yellow, and I'll show you how to tone it down a little bit. I'm just using a basic black chalk paint. This is the color ink. This is a Waverly chalk paint. And then I'm using this color by Folk Art. The color is Golden Ochre. I believe I grabbed that at Hobby Lobby. But these are the two colors that I have used on mine. I'm going to, you can see I like to use these little dishes. I'm going to put just a drop of paint, of this golden paint, in this. And then I'm going to put about a tablespoon of paint, maybe a teaspoon or tablespoon. If you're doing all three, tablespoon will probably be better. About a tablespoon of black paint in this bowl. And I'll show you how we mix it up. So get your paints, get 2 disposable cups or something to put your paint in, and I'll meet you back here in just a second. Okay, we're ready for the next step of coloring our crows. I have, well, let's just say I have my black in one cup, my golden color in another cup, and I'm going to carefully add just a little bit of coffee grunge to each. And what that will do is it will dilute it to almost a water-like consistency. Okay. Now, don't fret if you get your coffee grunge all over the place. I just made a mess and actually had to record this part of the video twice because I made a mess a while ago. But coffee grunge is not going to hurt it. You're going to mix it together. I'm going to use, I need obviously more black than I do of my golden color. I'm just going to stir that up so that it does dilute the paint and makes it very liquidy. So you want it like a watery consistency. You do not want your paint thick, okay? So I will just say you do not want it thick. If you put it on really thick, you won't get the character of the paint in the way that we want it to. Now, it's possible I probably added a little bit too much coffee grunge to this yellow, but I'm going to go ahead and use it, and we're going to see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm going to take a little small paintbrush and load it up with some of the yellow. I don't want it completely saturated because here's what you're going to do, and you've already seen, I've already done one side. If you saturate it, it's going to really kind of soak in and almost give you like some water lines. You want more paint than you do liquid, okay? Still want it diluted and thin, yes, but there is a fine line of where you can get it too watered down, and that's what will happen. So just take a light touch, and what I kind of like to do is sort of make somewhat of a little bit of a guideline to where I know I want this color to be. So I just kind of separate, make a line of separation there, and that kind of helps me to know where I want to take my paint. Now, I like to have a little bit of white in certain areas when it comes to the body part, but for the beak, I kind of like to have it a little bit more solid colored. And so you'll see me here in just a moment when I do the body. I'll just kind of do almost like dry brushing. And in fact, if you have a dry, like a chip brush or something like that, where you can get the good streaks, I probably would recommend to do that. Let's just take this, make sure this is stirred up good first. Let's just take a chip brush and let's do that a little bit. Just dab the tips in there, and let's just make some streaks, okay? Because for the body, you're going to want a little bit of that white fabric to still be visible at first, okay? Then we'll take the coffee grunge and we'll color over this. There's definitely a multi-step process to getting the color just right on these. Take your paint strokes and try to go all in the same direction, okay? If you get it a little heavy in some spots, that's okay. Just take your time. That's what I'll encourage you to do here. And I like to go a little bit darker on the belly and on the back for sure. And then I like to make sure that I get those little indentions where the eyes would be. I like to make sure that those are covered really good. And then the rest, you'll just want to be sure that at any point where you see some creases, like right here on his tail, hold that so that it holds that fabric straight out so that you get a little bit better coverage there. Okay. And you're going to continue until you get your crow covered with the black. And remember, you do not want it completely covered. So for example, do you see the streaks that I have right here on this part of the crow? I'm good with that because that's going to allow me to have a little bit of variation in my color. And that's going to give some area of my fabric where I can apply the coffee grunge as well. Okay. You don't want it so colored in that it looks like a coloring book. You know what I mean? Coloring book shapes, you usually have a solid color filling a shape. We're not going for that effect per se. Okay. You do want a little bit of streaking. And it's going to look white, really white to you at first, but that's okay. We will use, like I said, we will use the coffee grunge, and that will kind of melt the colors together, sort of. And it'll look a little bit more cohesive here in just a little bit. So trust the process, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. All right. So I'm trying to play careful here and not get too close to the beak color. I'm going to use a smaller detail brush to get in that area. Okay. Now I do want to make sure that I get down here where it's going to connect to our sticks here in a little bit. I want to make sure that I get that covered fairly well. Okay. And I want the back. I know I want its back line somewhat covered. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to switch to this sponge brush, and then I'm going to think that'll allow me to get close to his beak with a little bit more precision. You know what I mean? So it sort of has that angled edge and kind of allows me to control where the paint goes a little better. So I'll finish this one up so that you can see. You'll repeat this same process all three of your crows. All right, make sure you get down in the eyes. And okay, I'm good with that. Now, obviously, you might want to wear gloves when you're doing this step. Just try not to touch the beak with your wet black painted covered fingers, okay? And then we are going to place this on I've got paint on my piece of parchment paper here. Let me grab a quick wet wipe and clean my hands. This is a piece of parchment paper laid on a cookie sheet, okay? And I'm going to take this to my oven. Yes, that's right. We're baking crows. We're going to take this to the oven. I have my oven on 250 degrees Fahrenheit, so a very low temp, but nonetheless, this is fabric and it can burn. So definitely want to keep watch. So here's what I like to do. I set it on my parchment paper. I put it into the oven just like this, 250 degrees. I set my timer for 5 minutes. My timer goes off. I flip it over and set my timer for another 5 minutes. And I will continue to flip this bird every 5 minutes until it is dry to the touch and it has a little bit of a crisp effect to it. Okay, so I'm going to go do that. You go do that and meet me back here in just a minute. Freshly baked crow. It is dry and it's got a little bit of crisp and a crunch to it. So we're in good shape. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to take my coffee grunge here, okay? I'm going to give it a good stir so that any cinnamon that has settled to the bottom gets redistributed back in the mixture there. And then I'm just going to take that sponge and I'm just going to saturate my crow, okay? And as you do this, you're going to see that it's going to make a big mess. Your coffee grunge is going to drip. Don't fret, it's okay. You're going to soak it really good. And when you do this, all of those little areas where the paint did not cover, it's going to give it that grunged color, okay? And then not only that, it's going to also give the painted areas as well a little bit different hue, a different color to it a little bit, so that it looks, I don't know, just a little bit more primitive. That's really the only way I know how to describe it. So soak it down really good. And then once you do that, you're going to put it right back in the oven again and repeat the same 5-minute intervals of flipping until it's completely dry. Now, at that point, you'll have to decide for yourself if the color is dark enough for you. If it's too light, put it back in there. It really will just, it's a personal preference, okay? So I'm going to lay this crow back on my cookie sheet, place it back in the oven, and flip it every 5 minutes. And I'll meet you back here in just a second. The next items that you will need for this part of the process, you'll need your stick from the yard. You'll need one of your strands of jute twine for each bird. Of course, you're going to need your bird. This is freshly baked. It's all nice and crispy. We're ready to go. And then any kind of embellishments that you may want to use. I have pulled out some coffee grunged and baked fabric. I'm going to be using some rusty safety pins and possibly even a little rusty bell or a rusty star. You just use what you have on hand right here. Make it your own. You could dress it up for the seasons or whatnot. Okay, so my stick from the yard is going to go right in the crow. And at this point, you can put a little bit of hot glue if you'd like around the inside. But I wouldn't go too far up into the bird with the hot glue. Just keep it limited to down here around the stick area. Okay, I'm going to skip that step. Okay, and I'm just going to go straight in with my my twine. Okay, now make sure that you have your bird angled in the direction that you want it to go. All right, I'm going to take my string, and at this point you've got several options. You can tie it in a knot first, which I believe is maybe the way I typically do it. Let me kind of do this tight in a knot. This is kind of where an extra third hand comes in handy if you have one of those. You want to get it tight, and then you can start wrapping. Okay, so at least on there to where it's not going to budge. And then once you start wrapping, the tighter you wrap it, the better hold, of course, that it will have. Now let's cut that little tail off real quick. I'll snip that tail off. You're going to wrap, and you're going to go down with each wrap of the string. You're going to go further down on the stick until you cover the end of the fabric here of the bird. Okay, so just keep wrapping. If you want to double it, triple it, whatever you'd like to do, you can really kind of just make it your own here. I usually go down and then go back up. It just depends. Get it to where you like the way it looks. Okay, and then on this last wrap, I'm going to kind of hold this up here. I'm going to take the end of my string on that last wrap. I'm holding it up a little bit, and I'm going to loop it under there and then just tie it down on itself, and you should be good. Now, if you want to secure that with a little bit of hot glue, you can definitely do so, but I think it holds just fine like that. So now let's take a little piece of we have some coffee grunged homespun fabric here. I'm just going to make this a little tie. Let me kind of cut it to size here. I think that'll be good. And I'm just going to kind of knot it. Okay, this is where you can get really creative and make it your own here. If you want to create your own color scheme that matches your home decor, you could definitely do so. Or with a theme, or a theme, I should say. You can go all out here. I'm going to use, let's see, those are stuck together. I'm going to use one of these little mini bells and one of these little mini safety pins, okay? And I'm just going to thread that safety pin through the top of the bell, and then I'm just going to stick pin that to my tie here. Hopefully, these little rusty safety pins can be little boogers because it's sort of like the texture that's on the metal, the rust, doesn't really want to come through that fabric very easily. So you may be better off to kind of secure it. Oh goodness, here we go. Maybe under the fabric, kind of loop it around the fabric instead of trying to stick it through the fabric per se. There you go. If you want to add a little hang tag or a little rusty star, you can get creative with these and really go all out. And this one is finished. So let me show you some of the other pieces that I have used when it comes to styling these little crock pokes. Of course, you know, I style them in a stoneware crock. You can use a bucket, you can use a bowl, you can use a box. Get creative. You can even use a coffee can or some type of can or jar and really recreate yours. These I have these linked. Let's take a peek at that insert here. If you take a peek at the insert, I tell you the items that I use down here are in the optional section here. And these are linked. These are called the dry hill flowers. And I love these. To me, that just blends in with that golden color and they match perfectly. So these are called dried hill flowers. The Hobby Lobby SKU number is right here. And then I also added in a little bit of these right here. These are called, let's see, dried happy bundle. No, happy flower bundle. That's what these are called. And to me, I think these coordinate nicely. But if you wanted to choose just one, because these can be kind of pricey unless they're on sale, this is $8.99 a bundle. So I wouldn't buy them full price, or if I was just using it for one project. But if you wanted to make a choice of which one, I would go with these that are called the dried hill flowers. These are my personal favorite. And I just pair these really in with all three of them mixed in between all three of those crows. They look perfect. And I think this is something that works for fall as well. So give me just a moment. We'll resituate the camera and I'll show you how I've positioned and styled mine inside my stoneware crock. All right, see you in a second. So you have your crock pokes all finished. How can you style them? Style them in a bucket, a jar, a big crate, a box, or a stoneware crock. If you have one, they're perfect for this. Just keep in mind the length or the height of the stem or the stick that you choose to use will need to kind of relate to the object that you're going to be placing them in. So when I'm looking at mine, I use a vintage stoneware crock, okay? And I have put a disc of foam, like a circular shaped disc of floral foam in the bottom of my crock. And that allows me to stick the bottom of this stem all the way down into the crock itself, and it will hold the crow in place. I like to kind of arrange my crows in staggering positionings so that you can see all of them from any angle. And then I can place one taller than the others, kind of stagger them, like I said, and then I can space them in distance from front to back as well. And in between all of those little spaces of the crows, I just place in the dried flowers that we talked about in the previous segment in the middle of those crows. And look how precious they are. And if you want to even take it a step further, the little coordinating material, the fabric that you've placed around the neck of your crows, take a tie and wrap that around the top of your stoneware crock. And this gives you an even, the next step up, the next level up of coordinating elements. And doesn't that tie it all in nicely together? I think so. And I think this would be perfect to carry you all the way through fall. Now, here's another option. If you are a regular follower of mine, you know that we've been creating lots of things with fabric lately. Some things sewing, some things not sewing. But I have created a sweet little bunting to go on my stoneware Crocs. Take a peek. How cute. Create a little bunting that you can tie around the top of your stoneware Crocs. You can change out the ties on your crows for the seasons or just dress up the top of your Croc for each season. It's almost like a little mini element that you can decorate, sort of like a tree. Well, think of your Croc. You can dress it up for the seasons, change out the ties to coordinate with your buntings on the little crows to match the buntings. You could do that. Listen, the sky's the limit with these. Dress them up, and I want you to have so much fun. And when you do, I want to see your photos. Share them with me in my All Things Primitive Crafts and Decorating Facebook group. It's a free group. It's just a group where you can come share your photos of things that you've been inspired to create that are primitive style. Or if you don't feel like comfortable sharing your photos, just come and look at photos of others' creations. We would love to have you there, and I want you to keep your eyes open. If you've enjoyed this primitive sewing collection, keep your eyes open. We have more coming. And if you didn't get one of these first primitive sewing collections, you'll want to stay tuned. Follow me at My Sweet Home Living on Facebook, and I'll be giving you details on how you can get your hands on Primitive Sewing Collection number 2 coming out soon. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.